Did my last podcast get you all riled up on the whole GLP-1 thing? I hope so. I hope it got you thinking. That's the point. The point is to really understand and take control of your own life. As a life coach, I'm all about learning how to take charge of your own life. All right, I gave the emphasis on purpose because before life coaching, I think I spent a lot of time worrying about what other people thought. I also fell into a lot of subconscious unhealthy patterns of victimhood and all sorts of like stereotypes and things I didn't even realize I was doing. And the more aware that I've become, the more powerful I've been able to feel. And guess what? Life is a lot more interesting. And so I hope, and my goal for this podcast is to help you to create the kind of life that actually feels awesome and wonderful for you. All right. So today is part 2 of GLP-1's The Skinny on What's Really Going On. My name is Dara Tomasson, and this is the Quilters Coach podcast. And we're going to dive more into what to do instead of GLP-1. Are you ready? Now, before we go really into it, I always love to share wins. And this is from one of my clients who is super creative, super interesting, has so much to contribute. And she has a lot of things that she likes to keep. Are you like that? We have so many memories. We have so many creative ideas. And she actually just didn't have enough room in her house to store all the things. And so there was a storage locker. And the storage locker just kind of started filling up more and more. And so we kind of worked on different strategies. And eventually we just got to the point where it was just helpful to have me go and help her with the storage locker. And so physically we worked on it together. And I tell you, it was amazing. It was amazing to see her creativity. It was amazing to see all the things that she has saved. It was amazing to celebrate the different projects, but it was also amazing to be able to help her make some decisions on, I've already had as much fun with this project as I'm going to. I actually don't need to, like, that was an idea, but it's not like a baby that you have to like raise. Like we can just have we can just have ideas. And like sometimes we like keep doing those ideas and sometimes we don't, right? Like this shirt, I've actually had this shirt. If you're listening to the podcast, it's this really fun yellow and white polka dot shirt. And my friend, it was her shirt. And one day I went up to her and I just said, I love your shirt. It's like so amazing. It's like one of my favorite. It just brings me so much joy. And then 2 weeks later, she showed up at my front door and she gave me her shirt. And this was probably 10 years ago. And this shirt still brings me so much joy. I just love this shirt. And so, but I don't have to keep this shirt forever for me to love the shirt, right? And she didn't have to keep it. She actually gave it to me and she passed it on. So anyways, my client just sent me the picture of the empty storage locker. And I am thrilled for her. I am so thrilled for her that she took something that was really hard and she was able to work through it. She got the extra help. I was happy to fly there. I was happy to spend time with her. We had such a great experience together. And one of the things that I said to her was, I want you to memorize this feeling of accomplishment and like lock that into your body. This is who you are. And the more that we can create these intentional practices of making a goal and achieving it and really honing into it, the more that we create these incredible, natural, like these are going to be your new pathways. These are going to be these new experiences for yourself. So instead of the old one of like, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, you're like, wait a minute. I'm like a boss. Like I know how to do these kinds of things. I know how to empty a whole storage locker in a very short time. I know how to make decisions. Decisions are easy. These are my parameters of my decisions, and I just go for it. And it's just so fun. So if you have questions or, curiosity about life coaching, I got to tell you, you come in, you book a call with me, because I can give you help and I can show you. Life coaching has completely changed my life and the life of my children and the life of the ladies inside my membership. And currently, I actually have some one-on-one spots. I haven't opened up my one-on-one spots in over 2 years. And so I do invite you, if you want to go deep, or even if you want to do like a project like that, I do have some flexibility with having custom projects. Now, the other thing about working with this client is when you can get rid of those physical kinds of things that weigh you down, that's when you can start looking at the weight loss, the physical weight loss. So ties me in to today's episode of part 2 of GLP-1 antagonists. All right. So I want to think about so when we talk about GLP-1, it is a synthetic hormone that you're putting in your body. You're increasing it. Now, it can be beneficial. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's doctors that prescribe it. My biggest concern, and the reason that I am like, I took my stand and I'm going to stand on it, is because we actually don't know what's going to happen. We do not have the data. We do not know the side effects. Now, I'm sharing in the notes here about the history of weight loss. So I did a whole free training on the history of weight loss, and it is really scary. Okay, so we have like fen-phen, we have all sorts of weight loss drugs, and you can see that they do not end well. And although it looks very promising right now, we just don't know the side effects. Think about vaping. Think about the drugs that women took for morning sickness, and then babies were born with deformities and missing limbs. So we just don't know. Now, you can totally decide. And I am not saying what you should or shouldn't do. My purpose of this is to say, hey, listen, there is another way. And so I want us to look at, why are we overweight in the first place? So how do we lose weight? We have to be in a calorie deficit. So our body, I'm just going to do a little bit of science here, weight loss science. So remember my background. I was a school teacher. So I simplified things, took big concepts and simplified them. Quilting teacher, same thing. And when I taught quilting, it's like, here's a beautiful design, but here are the essentials. Here are the basics, and then help you to find your own voice, right? Build your own foundation, and then you can create your own unique style. And it's similar what I do here with as a coach, a life coach. So let's think about weight loss science. So we have food, and food has calories, and calories are just how much energy something takes to burn. So I live on Vancouver Island. We heat our house mostly with wood. So arbutus wood burns at a higher rate, and it's actually amazing. It will last longer. Whereas cedar or fir or like all different kinds of wood have different burning rates. Even glass has it burns at a different rate than plastic or paper, right? So for example, if you have meat versus carrots versus celery versus apples, cottage cheese, they all take longer to burn, less or longer time to burn. Okay, that's all calories are. Okay, so food isn't bad or good, it just has different side effects in our life. So if we are continually eating food that takes our body longer and longer to burn, then we are and if we're not moving more, or if we're not, and actually, if some of those calories have more chemicals, or if they have more, if we don't really even understand like synthetic materials, like you think about a candy and you look at, or even like ice cream or something, it's like you don't even know what those words are. Your body's like, I don't know what this, I'm looking at, like I have cocoa here. It's like organic cocoa processed in alkali. It's like, that's all it is. It's just cocoa. Whereas if you look at other ingredients, it can have all sorts of complicated things. And so that's going to take your body more work to break it all down and to use it up. Okay? So if we are eating more calories, so more food than our body actually needs to run. So our body requires approximately 1,200 calories a day to run. So we blink, to breathe, to digest food, to urinate, like all of that, to regenerate like bone, muscle. And so if we are constantly eating more, our body actually is kind of stressing out because it's saying like, I don't know what to do with all these extra calories, girl. Okay, we can put some extra, we can store some in your bum. We can store some extra in your, like behind your arms, I guess. We could put some in your boobs. Like, I don't know. And so if it's like you go to if you fill up your car with gas and you drive down the block and then you want to fill it up with more gas, the tank is already pretty full. It says, well, I guess we can just put some in these jerry cans or these gas cans, but we have to store it because we can't be using all of this. All right. So this is weight loss science as the most basic. And then we go and look at, okay, now we have the stored fat on our body. So it's kind of like a freezer, right? So I get more food. I go to Costco or wherever and I buy a bunch of food and I'm like, okay, we're going to put this food in the freezer. When I went to Costco the other day, they had chicken. It was such a good price. So I just bought like 5 or 6 big things of chicken. And so I put some of that in the freezer. Well, let's say tomorrow we are going to cook that chicken. Well, I got to go and take that chicken out and let it defrost for a while. And it's the same thing with using up the stored fat on our body. But it requires us to not eat, right? To not be putting extra food in so that our body can tap in and use that energy. Like, this is how we do it. So in order to lose weight, we have to be at a calorie deficit. Now, the problem is that if we don't have very good coping strategies, and if we aren't very comfortable with actually just being hungry and waiting, right, until we're actually hungry, or we feel like, oh, I'll lose control, then we're just constantly adding extra storage and we're not using up that storage. So when you use the GLP-1, well, that can enhance that process. But again, going back to the problem, the big problem is we don't know what we don't know. We do not know what is going to happen. The other issue that we talked about in the last episode that is very, very important, and the other thing that I feel very strongly about, is that starting at age 30, we start losing 3 to 5% of our muscle mass. And then in menopause, it accelerates. And then we have what's called sarcopenia. And so we lose this muscle mass. Then we have muscle weakness, loss of stamina, difficulty performing daily activities. And then we talked about our chances when we fall. You are now going to have a higher chance of potentially dying or having the surgeries that maybe our body, like our heart isn't strong enough, like that interview that I talked about in the last episode. So much of what is happening is actually avoidable. We can be more preventative in our approach. And this is where the life coaching is so important when it comes to permanent weight loss. Now, we have what's called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve goes from our brain down to our end parts. And in that vagus nerve, we have the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is always scanning for danger, right? It's its job. So fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, people pleasing. That's the fawn. So it's constantly scanning for danger. So if we're, maybe we're going to a guild meeting and we're worried that people might judge us, or going to a family dinner and maybe we're worried like that we've gained a little bit of weight and people might judge us, or maybe we've lost some weight and people might judge us. I don't know. Or maybe maybe our house, we feel like our house isn't clean enough or nice enough, and the people come over and you're just constantly in that fight or flight, freeze or fawn mode, right? That danger, that like this doesn't feel safe. So if our nervous system, so our sympathetic nervous system is not calm and we don't know how to calm that, then one of the strategies that we used as little kids was to eat some food. Now, I love when Janine Roth says that every time we turn to food is one of our strategies of trying to self-soothe. All right. So when we were kids and things weren't going so well, one of the strategies we did was we went and got some peanut butter maybe. And we were able to kind of have that it wasn't false. Like we did get that hit, right? But it didn't last very long. Or maybe we went and got some chocolate chips. Or maybe we went and, I don't know, did something and got some praise, external praise. Maybe when we were crying, or when we were really sad, someone didn't invite us to a birthday party. Maybe someone went and got us some ice cream. Okay? So we have these unhealthy coping strategies. And the problem is those are now in our body. Our brain is always looking for patterns. So when you first learned to start to drive, it was all very awkward. And then eventually, because the body was like, oh, this is a system. This is what we do. And so it like starts automating things. All right. So now we have this self-automating process of like, I'm sad, I eat peanut butter. I'm sad, I get some chocolate chips. I'm upset, I go and do some shopping. Or I'm sad and I go and do something for someone else to get some external praise because I don't know how to praise myself. And so as a life coach, and the life coaching tools that we use is we actually start interrupting those unhealthy coping strategies that don't help us. But one of the things we have to do is learn how to regulate our nervous system. And we also have, as part of the vagus nerve, we have what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system, I like to think of it as like a parachute. It kind of like slows down and has you think about your thinking. So you're like, wait a minute. Okay, I could go and eat that peanut butter and I could get that little dopamine hit, or I can actually just sit with my feeling of disappointed that my friend's not coming over, or that person made that comment about my quilt on Instagram. And that actually like made me feel, it made me kind of feel like defeated. But I actually know that eating peanut butter is not going to make a difference. And I really want to live a longer life. And I want to be like the healthiest grandma ever. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. So when people ask me, oh, how do you lose weight and keep it off since 2019, like over 50 pounds all through menopause, and you like had all these teenagers in your house over COVID and feeding them pancakes and spaghetti and all these things, and you didn't get any weight and you don't exercise regularly, you don't even need to, like what's going on? I say to them, I lost weight with my brain because I learned how to regulate my nervous system. I learned how to create healthy coping strategies. I learned how to take a pause before eating the spoonful of peanut butter. I learned how to feel the feelings. And I learned that when I can be uncomfortable, I can conquer the world. And so the struggle that I have with the GLP-1 is that you are now paying a lot of money for a fix that we don't know what the side effects are going to be. When you can create systems, healthy systems, to work through the problems. You see why I'm so, and this is the problem. I know there's going to be haters. I know there's going to be people that will say, you're so stupid. You don't know. You only had 50 pounds to lose. What's wrong with you? I know that's going to happen. And you know what? Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But if you're going to get anything out of these last two series, I want these two things to happen. The first one is, and this one is one of the saddest things I see in the world, is that people just understood that their worth as a human has nothing to do with the size of their body. It has nothing to do with how nice their car is or how big their house is or how smooth their skin is. Your worth as a human has already been set. It was already pre-decided, and it's never a negotiable. Never. I work with all sorts of women. Some women have all sorts of money. Others have hardly any money. And I can tell you, money has nothing to do with your happiness. Same thing with our body size. It has nothing to do with our happiness. Our marital status, how many kids we have, how many, if we don't have kids, none of that has anything to do with our worthiness as a human. That was already decided before we were even born. Can you imagine ever telling a baby, oh, yep, you pooped your diaper, or you did this wrong, or you spilled the cereal, or oh, yep, you're not as worthy as you were the day you were born? No. That, if I could have one message that I could tell the entire world over and over, would be that. Okay? So that's number one. And number two is that your relationship with yourself is key. And the more that you can learn how to be with yourself and truly take care of yourself, feel all the feelings, be this healthy, balanced person who allows the negative, allows the positive, who embraces that in order to have a balanced human experience, it's going to have negative, and that's okay. And that your weight or any of those things, those do not determine it. And so when women or men, I work with exclusively with women, take these weight loss drugs, they are not addressing what's really going on. And so that, if this podcast is resonating with you, and even if you're triggered by it, please, let's talk about it. You know, shame is one of the most difficult emotions that we have, because shame puts you like a mushroom, right? Puts you in the dark, and it doesn't allow you to really talk about what's going on. And so when these women who have been sexually molested, who are so disconnected from their bodies and don't know how to talk about it, please, I know what that is like. I know what it feels like to be objectified, to be taken advantage of because of your body, personally, and working with so many women. And so my take on weight loss is very different, because it is not cut and dry. So if you struggle, and if it doesn't feel safe for you to lose weight, yet you have all these pressures, or if you feel like you're just the biggest loser in the world because you've never lost the weight, or you lose it and you put it back on, It's not because you're not smart enough. It's because you just don't have those coping strategies. And I'm not going to edit out the tears, and I'm not going to edit out the pauses, because this is actually very challenging for me to talk about. Because every time I talk about it this way, I think of these individual women that I have helped. And it is a great honor. I think of myself as this little girl who was taken advantage of. It was horrendous. And I am so grateful that I have the tools, that I was able to work through what it meant to work through that abuse. And we can't shame it any longer. You are 100% worthy, whether you were sexually abused or not, whether you were teased, any of that. And, maybe I'm not your coach, I don't know, but I do want to be a voice for that. And so it takes a lot of courage, A, for me to be so verbal about this, and B, for you to listen and to act. And that is how you're going to make the change in your life, is to be a little bit uncomfortable, just like I am right now, sharing this and then publishing this podcast. But that's how you make permanent change. You don't need to stay stuck, I promise. All right. If you would like to meet with me one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do that. If you need to go if maybe this is your sign to go to a trauma specialist. I mean, I'm not a trauma specialist. I can direct you to one. But I do work with a lot of women and give them strategies and tools. In fact, a lot of women I've worked side by side. So they have their own trauma specialists that they've worked with. And then we have everyday strategies and tools to help with these things. This is not black and white. Life is not. And that's why life coaching is just so powerful, because we want to live a meaningful, powerful life, but we just weren't taught those things. And so the more that we can learn how our nervous system works, the more that we can learn how to rewire our brain, and the more that we can learn how to take a step back and take a look and not have to, keep skirting the issue, the more you can really start to live your life. And that's what I want for everyone. I want you to really start living the life that is actually genuinely you. So if this resonates with you, you can book a call. You can look into my membership. And maybe by the time you're watching this, I might still have some one-on-one spots open. I'm not sure. But you can just book a call and see, or just DM me. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye. If you aren't loving your current life and hear yourself saying things like, I should be happier, I should be getting more done, or question how productive and fulfilled you are, this podcast is for you. I'm Dara Tomasson, professional quilter turned life coach for quilters, where I show you how to overcome obstacles like perfectionism, people-pleasing, overeating, overcomplicating life, so that you can really start to enjoy your life by learning and using tools for your brain to help you transform your everyday living. Are you ready to make these changes? I'm ready to help. Let's start your transformation one UFO at a time.